Hello and welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. Hope all of you have been doing incredible. This past week I didn't do an episode because I was out of town for a wedding and it was a big adventure. I'll speak some about that in this episode, but something I really wanted to speak about today is this idea of background music. And this really came to me. I think I was going to do a completely different episode, but it came to me as I was actually listening to the background music of this podcast and thinking background music, and I was labeling the audio as background music, and I was thinking about the background music in our own lives. And when I say background music, you may think about, the background music of movies or just, like that music that's in the background. And as you've seen movies, as you've watched them, you recognize that the background music sets a tone for the scene or the movie itself. You're not going to hear joyful or inspirational music on a movie that's about like a slasher film. It's like there's a correlation with the music that's played with the tone that's being set for the film itself. And as we recognize that there's certain music that kind of sounds more creepy and eerie that would go along and match a scene in a scary movie, it'll elicit that feeling more. And as we translate this into our own lives, we realize that there's background music within our own lives. And that background music isn't necessarily tones and melodies, but they're words, they're things that we're believing, they're the things that we're generating as we're moving throughout our lives. There's never a moment that you're not thinking. And this is why meditation is something so great, because you recognize how much you are thinking. You recognize how much your thoughts are just kind of always flowing. And there's nothing wrong with it, but if we don't recognize that our thoughts are always flowing, constantly, always, then we're not recognizing that background music. We're not hearing that background music. And it's important for us to hear that background music, for us to know what it is that we're thinking in each and every moment in our lives. What are we thinking as we're walking throughout our day? What are we thinking as we interact with each other, as we interact with friends, with family, with people that we choose as enemies, with people that we choose as being, selfish or undeserving of our attention? What is the background music that's happening in those moments? And recognize, because this is the most important part of noticing that background music, recognize the correlation it has to your feelings. Because that's what it really boils down to. This is your life, this movie, this experience of life, this is your movie. And the background music that you're playing is going to set the tone for how this movie is playing out. And you can recognize that this is happening all the time. If your background music is, yes, I'm so excited for this event happening later on, I'm so excited to see my friends and my family, then all these situations can occur in your life that aren't really that pleasant. But if your background music is of thinking of those positive things, then your movie is going to be reflective of that. It's going to be in correlation to that. There's so much power in this understanding of just what is playing in the background of our own experience that's generating this feeling that I'm feeling right now. There are often times that we try to use words to change the way that we're feeling or change our background music, but the background music remains the same. And the way that we change that station, we can listen to music in our car as we're driving and we realize like, this is a terrible song. And we may change the station. And this is exactly what we have to do within ourselves. Once we recognize that music that's playing in the background, we're like, this is pretty terrible. This is a terrible melody. This is a terrible song. It doesn't feel good to even listen to it anymore. Then change the station. And so often in our lives, we've gone back to the same song that's pretty terrible, and we've set different stations. You know how you can set stations like 1, 2, 3 goes to a different radio station in your car. We set these stations to be that same terrible song. So you may switch the station and it's going to keep playing that same song. But you have to actually reprogram that system. And it starts with first moving that dial just a little bit. Not going to those automatic things that we automatically go to where it's like, this is a terrible song, I'll switch to the next one. Oh, it's a terrible song too. I'll switch to the next one. Oh, it's pretty terrible. I'll switch to the next one. But we're not actually trying to navigate around what feels better. We're just trying to go back to that automatic impulse, that automatic response, that automatic impulse of just doing something that maybe doesn't feel good or thinking something that doesn't feel good. So changing that station means turning that dial just a little bit more and saying, what would feel better than this? And even if that terrible song starts to go into a little bit of static and you hear it less, that's still better than hearing that whole song. In that static, that in-between time where you're like, I'm not sure, at least that was a song that I was playing before, and now this is just static, know that you're still moving away from that thing that felt so terrible. And in the next moment, that static can start to diminish out in a song that you like to play. The background music that you want to be on will start to show itself, will start to appear in your experience. We have to start changing the thoughts and the things that we're believing, the things that we're thinking throughout our days. When we wake up in the morning, what is the station that we're immediately going to? And it doesn't matter what the song is, it doesn't matter what the melody is that's being played, it's just recognizing that it's playing. That is the most critical thing. It's not judging that it's playing, it's not judging yourself, it's not judging the song itself. It's just recognizing this is what song is playing, these are the thoughts and ideas and beliefs that I'm holding right now, and this is what I'm experiencing. This is the movie that's playing out. There is a direct correlation, and there's nothing to judge here. It's just a realization of what it is, and that I choose something different. If this movie is not going well, this background music is eerie and unsettling, then I can stand up out of my seat in this theater. I can walk out and go into another one that feels better. You have to know that's a choice first. You have to know that these stations and this background music that is playing in your mind, these have been set up for years and years and years. These have been going on for so long that it can kind of seem like it's just, it's like, well, I've already watched half of this terrible film. I guess I may as well just sit through the rest of it. That's not true. And that's not something that we have to continue to believe. Just because most of our experience, or what we felt most of our experience has been terrible, has been unsettling, has been uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that we have to continue to sit through it just because, oh, well, I guess I'm still living and I guess I've already sat through half of it, so I may as well just continue to sit through it. It doesn't even feel good for you to think in that way. This is always going to be the experience that I have. This pain, this sadness, this suffering is always going to be something I'm going to hold on to. That's not something that's good to feel, but that is the background music that plays in many of our minds. It's just up to us to recognize that that music is no longer what we want to be playing, and start changing that dial, moving towards something that feels a little bit better. I was telling you about this trip that I went on for a wedding, and I was so adamant that the intention was to fly from Maui to Dallas. That's where my layover was going to be, and then I was going to do a transfer there to Denver, Colorado. And Colorado is where the wedding was. And the entire plan was going well, like the flight was going smooth. Everything that I had planned for this trip was going very, very well. And I get to Dallas and my plane gets delayed. And then the next plane gets delayed. And then I find myself stuck at the airport with no options as far as how to get on this plane, because all the delayed planes, people that were missing their flights had to get transferred over to that next flight. So I was less and less likely to get that next flight, and it was starting to look like I was going to have to wait almost a full 24 hours in the airport or before I can take another flight out in order for me to get to my destination in Denver. And of course, this brought a lot of anger and upsetness and anxiety about all the things that I was going to miss. I was supposed to meet up with friends and organize a carpool, and all these things that I was planning, it started to really dissolve right before me. And it started to change that background music within my head, within my mind, and it was making me feel very uncomfortable. And I was in that for a while. It was like maybe an hour of really trying to organize all these flights and like trying to rearrange things that I was very frustrated. I was very annoyed. I was very aggravated. I was tired. I was thinking about just flying back to Maui and just forgetting about the whole trip in general. And I sat down and I recognized, after I realized I wasn't getting on any flight, that I didn't want to feel the way that I was feeling. I recognized that I was feeling a very intense feeling, and I wanted to remove myself from it. I wanted to no longer feel that. So what I tried to do was just cognitively think about different things, like other tasks and other objectives, but those were things that were devoid of feeling. They were devoid of, what I actually want to feel. They were just very surface level things. So when I found myself back in that airport and still in the same situation, those thoughts didn't shift my emotions in any kind of way. Those thoughts didn't necessarily change my background music, because they were just very heady thoughts. They were very cognitive thoughts. They weren't very emotional thoughts. So I had to shift the way that I was feeling. I had to shift my thoughts about what I was feeling and what I was experiencing it. Because what I was experiencing, that's what was causing my distress. That was causing my anxiety. That was causing my anger. And as I started to think about the situation, I'm like, okay, no, I'm not going to make this flight. I may not even get into Denver. But you know what? I'm very fortunate that I can even fly. I'm very fortunate that this is an issue that's in my life, that, I can't get my connecting flight. I'm fortunate that I have money in my pocket and in my wallet where I can get food anywhere in this airport if I want to. If I want to, I can leave this airport and get a hotel and then just fly out another day. I'm thinking about all these other things of these situations that feel better to think about. I feel very fortunate, and I started to think about all the other people who were getting delayed in their flights and how much anger they were feeling, and how there are other people that maybe had doctor's appointments, had loved ones that they had birthdays that they were missing because of those delays. And I was just missing a day early for meeting up with my friends before this wedding. The wedding was like 2 days away, so I was like early and ahead of schedule in that respect. But I just wanted to be there early because I planned, my intention was to be there at that time and have that experience. But when I started to take a step back and realize that, what's most important is my feeling, the way that I'm feeling about the situation right now, and what I want to feel is different than what has been going on within me for the past hour or so. And as I started to move towards gratitude and thinking about all the benefits and fortune that I had for even being in that situation, I started to think about other possibilities of getting there, of getting to my destination. And I started realizing, I was like, wait a minute, Colorado is a big state. There must be other airports. And I found an airport in Aspen, Colorado. I've never been to Aspen, always wanted to go to Aspen, literally, as I was a kid, always wanted to go to Aspen. And I found myself needing to go to Aspen because it was the only open flight available, and it just so happened to only be 40 minutes more of a drive to my actual destination than flying to Denver in general, so it wasn't that far out of the way. I re-navigated to Aspen, flew into Aspen. It was absolutely beautiful, rented a car, drove. The drive was incredible. This experience turned out to be more than what I could have expected as far as of pleasure, of benefit, of joy. And it wasn't until I got out of my own head, it wasn't until I changed that background music that my experience started to change. I started to remind myself that everything is always working out for me. So what is it that this experience is going to bring to me? I start to allow that experience to come to me. The only thing I want to focus on is that music changing. And in whatever way that I can make that music change within my own mind, my thoughts, my ideas, my beliefs about the situation. The situation may not change at all. I'm still at that airport. But I want the music to change. I want this experience to be different. And as we focus on the feeling that's being elicited from those thoughts and those ideas and those beliefs, and they're feeling more in alignment with what we want to feel, then our life, we can start allowing more things to come in. The movie will start generating itself in accordance to the background music that you are playing within your own mind. That is actually something big that I'm just now putting together in a way that I feel makes a lot of sense. When we play the background music that feels good, that feels inspirational, that feels motivating, that feels inspiring, that feels like it's in alignment with what we want and what we desire, and what just feels good to feel. When that background music is playing, then life itself, this movie, will generate in accordance to that same pattern. And now I'm not saying that there will be situations that won't arise that try to get in your way, but keep the background music steady, and the weight of that thing that seems to inflict or damage or step in the way of that plan or idea or goal that you want to set, just know that the background music is paramount. What I'm feeling right now is the most important thing. So if my business just crumbled to the ground, yes, there are these thoughts and ideas and things that maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I should have listened to them, maybe I shouldn't have invested all that money. All those ideas, all that background music that's playing, it doesn't feel good. And when we realize that the background music is the most important thing, we want to feel good. We want that music to be something that feels good for us. When that is paramount, then it doesn't matter if the business crumbles. The thoughts and the ideas, the background music that's playing within my own mind is, you know what? I have another opportunity. This motivation, this drive that I have for this is going to make it happen. I know that in my happiness, in my joy, in my success, in my focus towards that which I want to have and experience in my life, that will bring it into my experience. And it doesn't matter if my business is literally burning to the ground right now. My background music will remain the same, and life will move in accordance. And who knows, maybe you had an insurance policy on that business that you didn't realize it, and it worked out for you. And you had a bigger business and it was more successful. Or maybe you didn't have an insurance policy and you lost all your money. But as long as that background music stays the same, there will be another opportunity that comes into your experience, and it may be flying you to a different destination than your intentional plan was. But the drive along the way, the journey that you will go on at that new destination, will be something more beautiful than you could have imagined. Let your background music be what leads your life. Let your thoughts and beliefs about your greatness, about your success, about your strength, about the love that you want to feel, the joy that you want to feel, the peace that you want to feel in your life, that be the thoughts and ideas and beliefs that are paramount within your own mind. And watch this life, this movie, transform in accordance. Hold on to it. And there may be times where you're stuck an hour or two, a day or two, a week or two, just really in that feeling. That's okay. There's no need to judge it. Just when you get that opportunity, when you get that glimpse of where you are, and you're like, oh, I'm back here again, and it doesn't feel good. I'm playing that music again that does not feel good. It's unsettling. Let me start playing music that feels better. And oftentimes we try to, just like I was distracting myself with cognitive thoughts of tasks that maybe I need to do, or other things that don't really have much emotion in it. Oftentimes we try to direct our attention there because we're like, this emotion feels bad, so I'm just going to stop feeling. That's not possible. But we try to stop feeling by thinking about things that are very cognitive, very much devoid of true, deep feeling. And that's not the way to go about shifting that feeling. Now, it can allow you an opening to bring in a better thought that comes with a better feeling. But a lot of times those thoughts are just very surface level. And when you find yourself looking around your situation and everything's the same, your wallet is still empty, your business is still burning to the ground, your flight is still delayed, and you're still sitting in that airport, you're going to realize that, you know what, the background music hasn't actually changed much. I just put it on pause and distracted myself in my own head for a moment. Let me actually change the station. Let me change the thoughts and beliefs about this very situation that seems to plague my experience. And if that is too much, then just look outside. Because when I was in that airport, the thing that started to happen first was me looking outside. It was a beautiful, airports, they're relatively flat, and the sky, it just seems kind of endless. And the colors that were in the sky, that's what captivated me the most. And I realized, I was like, I want to feel that peace. I want to feel that peace. And that's what started to generate the realization that, you know what, this whole time I've been thinking very cognitively. I've been thinking very superficially. I've been really diving into the emotions that are causing me to feel this distress. When we realize that the background music is what we wish to change, then we start to change the emotions around what we're experiencing in our lives. There's truly so much power in the realization, and the realization first that we can change, we can make a choice, we can change that station. That is a big realization, and when we start moving towards that realization, it will transform this life in incredible ways. It will transform your experience in incredible ways. There have been movies, a series of unfortunate events, that's a movie, and there's like some really unfortunate events that happen, but there's whimsical tones throughout it, and there's like comedy, so it's like the overall feeling that people feel. There may be some bouts of sadness or whatever it is based on the melody that's being played, but it doesn't matter the series of unfortunate events that happens. It's still something that's entertaining. You can watch Looney Tunes or, Wile E. Like the Coyote and all these different like cartoons and things where a lot of very unfortunate things happen, but the tones and melodies behind it make it something that's very entertaining. And now I'm not saying that you have to, do comedic things or experience hardships in a whimsical way, but I'm saying the recognition that the tone that's being set, the music that's being played, what is happening, what emotions are being elicited from these thoughts and these beliefs and these ideas, what emotion is being elicited based on this background music, and how is that correlating to the life that I'm experiencing right now. And when we make that correlation and we realize that we have a choice in how we want to live this life, the music that we are playing in our own minds, when we realize that that is a choice, then the power that we have to change that will change everything in our experience. So that's really all I had for this episode, is really just highlighting that aspect of recognizing the music that's playing, because again, it's playing all the time. You're never not thinking. Moments of meditation bring us out of that, or bring us greater awareness of how much we are thinking. So meditation is something that's really, really incredible, and it can help to slow down those thoughts if they're too fast for you to really listen to what's being heard. But even if you can't take, time to meditate, which You can meditate in 5 minutes, you can meditate in 2 minutes, you can just close your eyes and breathe and focus on your breath, and that can be a meditation. And you'll realize the peace that comes with letting go of those thoughts, of closing down the mind, of really just being at peace. And you'll realize that you want that more and more, and you'll start finding yourself doing that more and more, just unconsciously. You'll find yourself listening to that background music more and more and asking yourself, do I really want to keep playing this? Is this something that feels good for me? I have a choice in this, and I choose something different. I choose to walk out of this theater and go into another one that feels better. That's my choice, and I have that choice. That is my power. I can do that. And in that moment, our life will shift radically. In that moment, even just the recognition of the power of that choice, it's something that will drive your life in a completely different direction. Change the thoughts, the beliefs, the ideas, that background music, change it. Change it to something that feels better. Change it to something that's more in alignment with what you want for yourself. So again, that's all I really have for this episode. If you have any thoughts or ideas or anything that you'd like to share, you can send that to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can join any of the social media groups, Instagram, everything.sunpodcast, Twitter, @everysunpodcast, the Facebook group, @everysunpodcast, and the YouTube page, Everything Under the Sun Podcast. And that's all I got. Love you all so much, and I will talk to you soon.